Let me introduce myself. My name is Craig Muma. I am, geez, knocking over things all over. CTO of Joust. It's a software production-oriented software that is oriented towards the production industry, feature film at this moment. And I do say CTO, but amongst a room and list with all these smart people, I really take an honor that I'm even invited to be a part of this and everything else. I come from the production world. I never came from a true degree of CTO technologist or whatever you meant. Everything I learned was on the field and experience and everything that we do day to day. So in the end, I am the guy in the trenches with the boots on, making this happen from the camera all the way to the end and dealing with production as production happens, as the craziness happens and everything else that we see in the production before it even reaches the cloud. And we'll discuss what does the cloud even mean to a production guy like me and to Joust technologies for software and organizing that. And I just, want to kind of start from what the inception is and where it starts, and then how do we even get to this point, and how do we even collect that data on a day-to-day level. So one of the things, I'm not very good at PowerPoint. I don't have the attention span to sit down and do one. I'm more of a prop guy. I'm feature film. I sit on the thing. I handle props all day long. I handle cameras. I'm very hands-on. So that's one of the things, the mentality or the people that we deal with trying to get things into the cloud. We're dealing with production people first and foremost to get that information in. And so I'm just going to kind of go off and kind of show you some of the stuff that we're going to deal with and what it is. And so I'm going to pretend I'm the director and I got my camera and I'm ready to go onto the set. And so I'm going to come onto the set and I'm going to go look at the people in the Army, where they are. I brought some Army guys so you guys can see some green Army. And this is kind of the producer's mentality. He comes in and goes, hey, I got a great script idea, but hey, let's just hire an Army to help you out. What that means? I don't know what that means, this Army, and what kind of special skills they have. So for the last 3 months, I've been preparing a script. I've been preparing everything. I arrive on the day. You know what? I don't like what I prepared for the last 3 months. I'm going to go ahead and change everything that we just prepared for the last 3 months. And I know you guys, the engineers and everything, you've prepared the cloud. You've prepared everything for what I'm going to do. But I'm a creative. I don't care what you did. And I'm going to change it on the day when the whole Army is on the field ready to go. So I'm over here. I got my camera set up. I've got my lenses, and I've changed my lenses too. I've changed everything about this film that I'm about to produce. So that Army that the producer hired, they've got to be able to follow my lead in real time. They've got to be able to track the data and everything I do in real time. And how do we do that? Do we provide them a software to do that? They show up on day one before the shoot. I don't have time to train them. I don't have the time to show them a new methodology. They show up with their notebook. They write on their notebook, whatever it may be. They show up with their tablet. They show up with Excel. They show up with nothing. So how am I going to get to them and get the information that I need from them in post? Because I need to recreate what they did in post. And if I don't have the information that they did on the day, I can't do that. My forensics cannot do that. So how do I get that notebook? How do I get a tablet? How do I get Excel? How do I get a file maker? And how do I get it into the cloud? And they don't even know what the cloud means. Personally, I don't know what the cloud means. I can't sit there and define it. Do I have a good idea? Yeah, it's just this big, vast place that my ones and zeros go to. That's great. But how do I access those ones and zeros once I move it from an analog world into a digital world? And that is the complication that we deal with every day on a production value, or a production environment, if you will. I get hired, we get hired, to be part of a thing. We get shipped over to South Africa. I'm dealing with technicians that have never put anything into the cloud. They barely have an internet connection. So how do I collect that data on a day-to-day level? How do I teach them to do that? Because there's a lot of moving parts. And one of the things we're always trying to simplify, part of the Joust team, then what we did, we're production people. We said, hey, I don't know how to write a software, but we're smart enough to hire developers to write this and to figure out how to get that information collected off of the set into a place that the computer falls asleep. And I don't have a password, no worries. So how do I get that information collected easily on a day-to-day level so when it enters the cloud, and everything that we're kind of talking about, and all these, ideas, and these really smart people that are going to come up here because they are smart, and they're showing us all these new technologies. Well, it's got to start with information first. The cloud is no good without information from the inception. And we can put anything in there, but it's unusable unless it's a way to track it, way to put it together, and kind of make it easy for all our different facilities around the world to get into, understand it, and take on new ideas. So, production, we got the camera, we got the Army. There's a few smart individuals in that Army. They're taking data from the camera. They're writing down lens information. They're writing down the height. They're writing down what the actor's doing, whatever it may be. And, there's people go, well, great, yeah, but there's going to be cameras that are going to track that. No, yes, there is going to be cameras that track that. But when we're dealing with in the feature film industry, the DPs and people, they want to use antiquated lenses. They want to use older lenses that don't track this information. They want to use cameras that they felt comfortable because they won the Oscar with it 3 years ago, and they're going to use that same camera for the rest of their life. So how are we going to deal with that? I can't tell him to say, oh, we need this new one because it captures metadata. I don't care it captures metadata. I'm capturing my actor in a perfect light that I'm used to. So how are you going to capture my data? That's what he's telling me. So I have to have a guy sit there and write the data in analog form, whether it's a notebook, whether it's FileMaker, whatever it may be. How are we going to get that? So the Army goes through the end of the day. They capture what they can. They put it on their laptop. They go off to their hotel room. They've just worked 17 hours. How now do I get them to download that data up into the cloud or upload it into a website or whatever, a collective place? And how do we attach it to a single clip? Meaning everything starts with the camera. You have a file name from a camera, and there's notes taking for every shot. Every take, there's a note taken. There's color information, there's scripting notes, there's art department, there's reference photos, there's HDRI. I can go on and on and on and on. How many assets belong to that one take? So how do we get every one of those individuals in that room to put that information attached to that one take in an analog moment? Because they're not working all on the same software. They're all working on different software. And this is kind of and there's no real answer yet at the end of the day, like a really smart answer, like, hey, everything is automatic. There's something that, one of the things that we did at Joust is we're production people. We got tired of being in post and going, how do we recreate what they did on the set? Because now our production schedules have been shortened. Our money is less than it was. And how do we fix that shot or create a shot that needs to match what they did on the day? And we went out, we wrote something that kind of just said, here, everybody just dump everything in at the end of the day. Joust will figure it out, attaches to the camera file, and we teach every little operator. It's a 15-minute lesson. Here you go. So that's the best we've done so far in trying to get them to upload data into the cloud that's usable. Now, obviously, over time, it's going to get smarter. It's going to get a lot better. Hopefully, operators, the Army, is going to start to understand what they need to do at the end of the day and how to attach it. But this is, I'm kind of coming up here to kind of show the realism of what we deal with on a day-to-day when we're in the trenches and we're actually not, sitting in a cold office somewhere with all the data being handed to us. We are in South Africa. We are in the jungles of Costa Rica. We don't have internet connection. We don't have power. We don't have anything. We're lucky to have our notebook, our charged iPad, because the hotel power went out for the night and there was no way for me to charge any of my equipment. And this is real situations. This is not stuff that I make up. So for the cloud to be effective and to be utilized, the information that's collected at the core set has to be viable. And so we've gone through production. They've looked at the camera. They've gone through it. So one of the things, camera leaves, that Army's gone. Okay, now what are we going to do? The guys that had the brain trust, the production people on the ground, the troops on the ground, are gone. With them, the information, unless you collected it. And that information is really viable. So you get in, and if you had more Army, all right, I'll put in more Army. Here's post-production. right? Now we have post-production. The old army's gone. Now we have a new army. How are they going to learn what the previous army did to win the war? Because at the end of production, we have won the war because we finished. It was a really big battle, but these guys don't know how to win the war yet. The director's continuing on. He's the one that we face every day. So when he's sitting in the editorial room and he goes, hey, remember that shot when we were out in the jungle and I really wanted to add that red dragon that nobody thought of? How are we going to create that dragon? What was the notes on that guy? Because he expects that everybody knew how he created that dragon and what it wanted to look like. So again, it comes to the how do we formulate the cloud to be easy for people with preschool minds like myself to think of an ADD that I don't want to have to spend too much time trying to figure out, to go to a cohesive place in the cloud, look for the information and recreate it, whether it be the original camera file, whether it be a reference file, photo, because somebody took it, or somebody drew a design of the dragon on a bar napkin. How did that get into the cloud? How did that analog piece of material become a 1 and 0, get into the cloud, become searchable, become attached to something that I can use in post-production after the fact? So barring all the bandwidth issues that we deal with and all the logistics, that's going to come in time and technology and as people kind of put things into place. This is an area that still is not really being truly addressed because we have no standards. We have no, we don't have a SMPTE in the sense of production methodologies. We just have the producer hiring whoever is available at that moment, and not because they know how to operate Joust or any of these other Fifth Kind or anything else. They don't know. They're not hiring on those bases. They're just hiring because it's the guy knows the area. He's a local hire. I'm not going to pay for a hotel. I'm not going to pay for a per diem. He's a local hire. So how do we continue to find ways to get that information, attach it to the, what we call an OCF, original camera file, and move on and be able to do something in post with that? Kind of the philosophy, if I kind of look at the cloud and how I look at the cloud, understanding that you guys kind of understand our dilemmas in production every day. What is the cloud? The cloud to me is not a piece of hardware with storage because we can create that all day long. I can put a box in a closet over here with a gig connection and I can call that the cloud. To me, that's not the cloud. The cloud is a collaborative area for everybody, and I really like Eric's friend's analogy, Frank's, everyone's computer, somebody else's computer. And that's the truth. The cloud is somebody else's computer. And having all those computers and harnessing that network around the world and being able to put somebody else's computer into a central place that everybody can use in the production to collectively finish an idea that started at the beginning of a script is where I see the cloud and what that means to me. Hardware is hardware. But how do we track everybody's computer, what's on their computer and everything else? So let's say that dragon is now at company A. Director likes it, puts it into a scene, says, yep, that's the dragon I like. So how does company B on the other side of the world know what version of dragon to use? Because, see, they're sharing shots. We can't put an entire movie like Ted, when we do a Ted, at one location. It's impossible. There's not a company that can handle it in the world. So you split them between different locations. So how is that company A going to relay information to company B of what dragon to use and how? Now, we've been working closely with ETC in a program called C4, which is kind of that mindset of real-time unique ID tracking in a cloud environment, meaning if I'm working in Los Angeles on a computer with Nuke and I'm pulling up that red dragon and I'm using version 2, how do I look for version 3 to make sure that I'm using the final version that the director pulled off? And that's some of the ideas that we're perpetuating with the ETC, Joust, and other companies that are starting to look at this is I want to be able to ping that guy in Germany and I want to be able to pull over version 3 of that red dragon. And I want to know that's the final because I don't want to look embarrassed when I go to present my shot to the director And he goes, where did that dragon come from? Well, what do you mean? That was the one? No, I didn't sign off on that dragon. It's got the wings are too small. Now I've just wasted 1 month compositing, rendering in the cloud, and all the big money that we use in the machines and everything else. And now I realize version 3 is the final. That's, to me, is the harnessing that part of the cloud, is being able to go to a bank of information. I pull up my model, and it's the final model. It's not some version 2 on somebody's computer in Los Angeles. It's in the collective space for the production to pull up version 3 and not everything else. So to me, that's what the cloud means, because other than that, it's just a computer that I upload information up and down. I can do that at my house, and I can do it for, I don't want to say much cheaper, but I probably could. I could probably have 150 terabytes sitting at my house and just up and down and give somebody VPN access or give them a network access. So that doesn't make sense to me as a cloud. A cloud is a collective space for production and to make things more efficient and faster, because our deadlines are only becoming shorter and with less money. And so for that, we've got to figure out ways to collectively, use other people's resources, and vice versa, they use our resources. So I don't have to tell a visual effects company in Germany that, oh, you guys need to, up everything that you have. You need to go spend $1 million just to work on our movie. So no, you can get off the main house. They're going to share some of their resources so that company in Germany can be a part of this company or be part of this film to render and do what they need to do, because we're using collective resources. So all in all, that is kind of like my, just, it's a thought-provoking for people to understand what we deal with in the trenches and how we're trying to get collective information. We wrote Joust, that just went away again, as kind of software for our friends to kind of figure out and go, hey, this is something that we battle every day, and trying to get all this information from set. And I think so far we're doing a good job of it. It's an uphill battle, and it's only more and more to come. But that would be kind of my walking away thought, is what really is the cloud and how does it work for production? That's it.
Do we have any questions?
Pretty straightforward. All right. Yeah, Brendan.
What do you think have been the biggest challenges in terms of on-ramping to the cloud, in terms of like actually building an infrastructure? Can it be built in time for a production? So if you show up day one, have you been able to build a cloud infrastructure on day one?
As an individual, no. To answer your question, Brandon, can you build an infrastructure on a cloud, instantly or anything more like that? Today, I wouldn't say that we'd be able to turn it on in 5 minutes. We're getting closer and closer building that infrastructure as things have grown, and as more services are offered from a Google, it's with their cloud structure, and offering some of the unique support software that we need, for our industry to be in the cloud, because there's some basics, and they think some basics of what they need, but we are a special breed in our industry. It's ever changing. Every day is bleeding edge for really dealing with these ones and zeros. So building the cloud instance today is probably not the most viable right off the shelf for the the big feature film, but in a short amount of time it will be a viable, where we can turn it on in 10 minutes, 5 minutes for that. But it's getting people to understand and not be afraid of the cloud, because the cloud really is kind of this vapor. When they see the box wheel into their editorial room, they're like, oh, thank God, there's a box I can touch. And it's going to take a while to people to, cut the umbilical cord to that box that's sitting in an editorial room, that's their cloud, and understand that the cloud, production cloud, if you will, is a safe environment. It's viable, and it is effective cost-wise if it's used correctly. But yeah, the answer, it's coming. You have to turn it on.
I guess just to follow on this, just your opinion, if the trend is now that productions are going to start to offer a shared infrastructure for all these other partners, is it your opinion that it's going to be more likely or easier to begin enforcing common processes? Because I think what you're describing is not just the technology, but consistent processes that identify, here's the hero asset or whatever. Is that, do you believe, the culture of film productions and the way they've always been distributed, and do you think by having now shared infrastructure provided by the production itself, it's going to force people to start adhering more to a common process?
Yeah, my philosophy on the common sharing everything and the restructure, or the services, is going to start to create a culture of standardization, if you will, our processes or understanding. I don't think there's going to be an organization that gets together and says, we are now the SMPTE of visual effects, and this, you're going to follow Rec 709, whatever number they come up with. But I think the culture will, kind of change itself as we're be able to share resources. We're able to. Visual effects is a fragile market anyway. They can't just go out and buy a gazillion pieces of hardware. They're already working on a margin that, and we saw it with a couple of years ago, a movie that, there was a big visual effects protest against. And it's true. You see these big, it's a $25 million budget, but we're literally, if not more than 25, they're just surviving show to show. So I think the cloud is one thing that's really going to help this industry, and the post industry is sharing resources, helping each other out. If we look back 20 years ago, everything was special sauce. When we started visual effects, we didn't share our code with anybody because we knew how to do fur. We knew how to do water dynamics. We knew how to do all this stuff. And we never shared it. Today, pretty much everything's off the shelf. There's a special little codes here and there, but for all in all, it is off-the-shelf solutions. It does come down to the artist, really, a lot of times for animating. When you go to a place and you're doing a TED, it's really important that artist knows who Ted is and has become Ted. So that's why you go to them, because of their artists and everything else. And it's going to become more artist-centric than it is hardware and software-centric. And I think the more we can share those resources of hardware and software, I think we'll see better results, and more higher quality feature films for us anyway. That's our philosophy.